All right. You're doing the introduction, then Alfonso, and Alfonso's going to throw it to me. Okay. So this is actually a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, guys. It's called Cavs Nation. We're going to talk all things Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. We're popular in Cleveland. No, Stipe Miocic. He won a world title.
And who's that boxer? Remember, didn't have a champ boxer too? No,
he lost.
But before he was a champ for a little bit, no?
I don't think he's from Cleveland, though. I think he's from
Ohio.
From Ohio, not from Cleveland. Yeah.
You're probably right. All right, guys.
We ready?
We're live. We're 1 minute and 3 seconds in.
Give it up. Give it up.
Woo! I see you, Luisa. Peace. You guys can't see it, but there's 500 people on the live right now. Limited access up in here, guys.
We're live in Lebanon. Start off with
the toast. 50th episode. Thank you, Dr. Tucker, for joining us.
Toast to the crowd.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, everybody. All right, welcome to another episode of Jujuteros Coast to Coast, the podcast that talks about what's important on and off the mats. We got the whole crew here. We got 80. We got 2 Alfonsos today.
2.
And we're celebrating our 50th episode, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this crazy journey. 80 Fonzo, 50 episodes. Who would have thought? But here we are live at the Spokeasy House in Historic Tower District, located in downtown Fresno, California. How you guys doing today?
Man, it feels amazing. 50 episodes already. Can't believe it. I'm excited, man. This is amazing to be right here at Spokeasy talking to our guests. You know, I'm great, man. I feel amazing. How about you, Eddie? How you doing?
Frank and Alfonso, I'm excellent. When it comes to guests, we really outdid ourselves, gentlemen. Our first guest is sitting to my right, Dr. Alfonso Tucker, a real modern-day Renaissance man. And then we have owner and overall badass, Spokeasy owner and overall badass, Michael Ungeuz. Make sure you edit that. And I can't.
I'm keeping it in. This is live.
So let's begin.
Can't edit live, Eddie. Sorry.
Take that part out. And I am not reading from a piece of paper. This is all off the top of my head.
Unless you're watching, it's just staring at tape.
So, Dr. Tucker, thank you for being our guest. Having you on the show is a great honor. Before we begin, I would like to name off some of your accomplishments. Dr. Alfonso Tucker is an NCAA All-American wrestler out of Fresno State. Yep, he's one of our own.
Fresno State, baby!
He's a published... Go Bulldogs.
Go Dogs.
Not the East Side Bulldogs. The Fresno State, Frank. He's a published author. You have 3 books to your name, sir? Is that accurate?
Yeah, you can say that. I have a couple more, but we're not going to talk about that.
Okay. Dr. Tucker currently works as a psychologist at Valley State Prison. He works with people with developmental disabilities and developmental disorders. You're also a motivational speaker. Is there anything I forgot to mention?
Put it this way: public speaking is definitely a perishable skill.
Okay.
I've been out of the game for a minute simply because I'm trying to finish up my residency.
Okay.
So I get a couple bookings here and there, but your listeners, please don't be disappointed.
Oh no, hell no, dude, hell no.
I just finished your book, Dr. Tucker, and there's no downtime. There's no boringness. There's no. We're honored to have you on here and share your story with us and just share some time with us. Thank you so much.
I'm truly appreciated to be here. It's an honor for me. I know you guys have said that many times, but it's definitely an honor for me. Am I pronouncing this correctly?
Yes, you nailed it.
Good accent.
Yeah.
Accent down. All right. You guys ready to ask some questions?
Yeah, let's start off. We're going to start off with some wrestling questions.
Yes. How long did you wrestle for, man?
How long did I wrestle for? I can remember going to my first day of wrestling practice was at Mayfair Elementary School.
Shout out Mustangs.
There you go. And I was in the 4th grade.
In the 4th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's when I started wrestling. Awesome.
thought it was different,
Real
though.
quick, Dr. Tucker, was Al Sanchez the principal back then? No.
What is that name? You know, I don't.
He was the principal
Oddly enough,
like
the name-
forever.
The
Yeah.
name rings a bell. I can't say
He was there
but
forever. He was an
it
icon
definitely
down
rings a
there.
bell.
Yeah, I bet he was there.
I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. What got you into wrestling?
Truthfully, I was, a little bad kid. I was getting in trouble like crazy all the time. You come from well home, you got issues, and I was fighting like it was going out of style. And they told me that I needed to do something to kind of quell my anger. So I got invited to wrestling practice, thinking that it was going to be like some. Back in the day, I think they called it WWF.
Yes.
So I thought I was going to go jump off the top rope or something.
We're still waiting to do that.
So that's what got me.
All right.
Can I share a real quick story?
Yes, please.
I've known Dr. Tucker. I'm 14 for 28 years. My dad would pay Dr. Tucker when he wrestled at City College to be my private coach, and so Dr. Tucker, taught me the more advanced techniques. And I remember he said, "You know what? I'm gonna come to your match tomorrow. I'm gonna see you wrestle." Like, he's not gonna come, whatever. So day of the match comes, I pin my opponent, and I get up and I point at his girlfriend. I was like, "That's for you, baby," and start flexing. And I wouldn't shake the coach's hand, and I'm just have my hands in there being a real jerk. And I look into the audience, and Dr. Tucker's there, wearing a tank top, arms folded like this, disappointed as fuck, and points at me and does this. And Yaru was sitting right next to you. And he goes, "You go." I thought he was going to beat the shit out of me. I was like, I went from woo to so he's like, "You go shake your opponent's hand, you shake the coach's hand, and you apologize to everybody." And I was like, "Yes, sir." And, so I did. So thank you, man. That was a real valuable life lesson for me. Thank you, sir.
I actually remember that. I had to think about it. I was like, I can't believe this guy's acting.
I can't believe this kid smelling like chorizo over here. Flexing on everybody. Oh man, that's a great story. Great story. Dr. Tucker, did you continue wrestling after graduating from college?
Actually, I did. I got picked up, so to speak, by Adidas.
Oh wow, dang!
I mean, most
Holy
wrestlers
smokes.
will. Most wrestlers will who have accomplished a little bit, but sadly enough, my mindset was not in the right state of mind, so to speak. I think I'm very fortunate to have accomplished a little bit in the sport, but mentally, I know, and again, I'm going to disappoint your listeners. I didn't give it the so-called, 100% of my attention. I think I got away with being a bit more athletic and gifted physically from a strength and speed perspective. But I think if I had committed fully, I think I would have done so much more. Mentally, now that I think about it, I could have accomplished so much more. But mentally, I was in a different place.
Wow. And what style did you wrestle? Was it freestyle, Greco?
Yeah, so collegiate is more or less like a folk style. You're going to compete. You have to be more disciplined. You can lift a person off his feet, and you have to return it to the mat safely. But in freestyle, you can toss somebody on the back of the skull and wink as they're going down. It's gonna hurt. You're not gonna get in trouble doing that. I prefer freestyle because it's a bit more reckless.
Yeah. Sounds like it, man. Yeah.
Definitely get used to confidence.
All right. And one third part of this final question: what were some of your wrestling accomplishments that you accoladed at Fresno State?
I can remember I pledged a fraternity, right? And my coach didn't know until maybe halfway through the pledge process. And I was tired as heck because, you would go throughout your whole day, but we would start at 9/11. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. Yo to my brothers. If for whatever reasons you were a second late past 9/11, you were put in a cut, meaning you were beaten. But we would pledge until the AM hours, so you didn't get any rest. Meaning, I'm proud because I went undefeated during that process.
Oh my
Wow.
Wow,
that
damn,
is
dude.
I'm happy
amazing.
about that.
That is some mental fortitude, like a
Mental
damn
fortitude.
effort to get through that, man. That's just craziness. Well, we'll get into how you got to that level, because that's not just something that just anybody can. I mean, wrestling enough takes a certain mindset, you know. But being able to wrestle and on top of that, handle school, handle work, handle pledging through all that. I mean, that's just another level, you know.
So, you think you'll ever compete in wrestling again?
Kyle, you know what? I have some plans. I want to get through this Fresno State finish line testing and put myself in a position where I don't have to necessarily think or worry, from a mental perspective. I work in school and study, and believe it or not, they have divisions in wrestling for age groups.
Okay.
And there's no doubt in my mind that I will get this body back in shape.
Oh man, well we would love to see that. Definitely, that's amazing. Love to see that.
Yeah, you think so?
No, definitely would. I mean, me and Eddie still practice a little jujitsu, and they got old man jujitsu worlds coming up in November. I want to say. So
Casey, same with Casey.
Seniors 5.
Yeah,
I think, I don't know. It's the one where everything pops and locks at the same time. So we got to be careful.
Come down with a cane.
But once that ref calls us out of that corner, we're good for at least 2.5 minutes of some solid wrestling and jiu-jitsu action. Maybe.
So, Dr. Tucker, wrestlers are known for their mental toughness.
Okay.
How were you able to apply the lessons you learned from wrestling to your everyday life?
Life lessons like you don't quit.
Yes.
That's probably the first thing. A lot of times people want to engage in behaviors because they think that they're tough. You really have to, let's just say from a mental perspective, know when to put yourself in a position and when not to. I have so many friends that have kind of taken the wrong perspective to that, but what wrestling has taught me is how to more or less control my frustrations and my anger. Without that, like I told you, when I was a kid, I used to get in so much trouble. I stopped getting into trouble when I started competing. So I would definitely say that it gives you this understanding of self that most people don't know. Most people don't know how far they can take their bodies, how far they can pressure themselves, how much mental anguish they can actually put themselves through. Most people don't have those answers. And I can guarantee you, anyone who's competed in a combat sport, such as wrestling, such as jiu-jitsu, so forth and so on, they can definitely answer those questions for themselves. And that helps throughout the entirety of your life. It definitely helps.
Yeah, you got to dig
you,
deep.
sir.
Yeah, you dig deep into the well sometimes, and you think that there's nothing there. But I mean, I've heard many people say it before. I hear a lot of high-level athletes say it, and you just mentioned it. There's always more your body can do. Just you can keep pushing yourself.
I agree.
As long as the mind is there. Dr. Tucker, I finished reading your book Noesis not too long ago, a few days ago, and I found it very hard to put that book down. And you did mention wrestling. You even went as far back as your middle school wrestling career.
Yeah.
Is there a particular match in your career that you're especially proud of? And if so, what was that match and why? Well, I mean, in your entire career, is there one that stands out? Maybe middle school, high school, college, beyond college?
Of course. Fortunately enough, some, I guess, people in the mental health field, some psychologists who are in the audience, they know what episodic memory is. So, fortunately enough, I have a very strong episodic memory, meaning I can recall events. And because, I've been competing, since my youth, so to speak, I can remember those matches. I can remember how I scored and what the difficulties were within those matches in regards to movement. So when you ask me what my favorite match was, I can remember winning for the first time and the feeling that I got knowing that I actually did something that I can be considered good at. I can remember the referee raising my hand, and because I was so small, I competed at like 80 pounds. And it's crazy. Look at this guy.
It's like Alfonso's left leg right now.
Raising my hand of victory, so to speak, and my toes touching the mat because the guy was like,
He was too tall.
Of course, we can go on and on and on, but those moments, you kind of live life to relive those particular moments from an egotistical perspective. You know, you want to do more, and you see it and recall it, and that's my fondest memory.
Right on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, we're gonna switch.
Man, I thought these questions were gonna be hard. I'm not gonna embarrass myself.
No, definitely not. We just want to hear some great stories from you. You have such an awesome, fantastic story. We want the listeners to hear it. You know.
I'm not gonna hold back.
Perfect. Yeah.
And, just switch topics a little bit. I want to ask something about psychology and intuition. You know, we're coming out of a pandemic. You know, I think people have struggled. Just
Embrace the CDC, right? So we don't wear masks anymore. Is that it?
you know, but some people, you know, really struggle getting through and just dealing with some isolation and just, you know, things like that. So what would be your best advice for people to stay mentally healthy, you know, throughout events like this or just general?
You know, that could be a very difficult question because it's going to be specific to individuals. You know, I can sit up here and say, hey, you got to work out, you got to get some exercise in. But how about persons who are kind of sedentary or have some physical elements who aren't able to get out and work out? So me to say that, and because I'm so athletic, you know, I can do that with my eyes closed. It would be maybe a bit more difficult for someone to accept. But I can say this, for those who have been isolated during this time, there's some mental reflection, so to speak. If you understand what your triggers are, that can kind of open up a world of health for you from a positive perspective.
Right.
Sometimes people don't understand or know what's triggering them. And so as I can be a bit more clear, say, for example, sometimes we're dealing with difficulties in life, period, right? And then you have a bad day, and then some people don't know why they're actually having a bad day.
Right.
Maybe they don't know what triggered them. You know, there's different ways we can go about this. Some of my psychology friends would say, you know, from a psychodynamic perspective, it's probably something that happened to you when you were a kid, right? But it could be different. Not everything that troubles you in life happened when you were a child. But I can say that if, as an adult, you understand what triggers you and you put yourself in a position so as to have some positive coping skills to deal with those triggers. And I'm not talking about maladaptive. We're sitting around here and I see, you know, people with drinks in their hands. I'm not talking about, you know, overdoing it with regards to alcohol. That's definitely maladaptive.
Right.
But if you have some positive coping skills, you can use that to your advantage. Personally, I enjoy writing and I take it to the extreme. I enjoy everything about writing, from the weight of the paper that I'm writing on, the type of ink that I use when I'm writing a specific writing instrument. Should I say, when I am writing, it's like what we call in psychology, like a transitional item for me. So to answer your question, if you know what your triggers are, you know, what coping skills are you using to combat those triggers? I encourage your listeners to find out and be honest with themselves. What are their triggers? And then, hey, what am I doing that's healthy that can help me so that I can get past these triggers? Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah,
That makes.
Does that answer your question?
That answers my question. Yeah.
So get to know yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. Awesome.
Mr. I'm flexing in front of my.
Which way's the beach, Eddie?
That way.
Talking about
Just call me Sir Biceps. That's question number 2. By the way, a huge shout out to Dr. Clayton Smith. He's here in the audience. He helped me write these questions.
Got some biceps on it.
So, doesn't it? Yeah,
he does.
Can you flex for us? Get in front of the camera and hit the most
He
muscular.
doesn't even have to flex, man. It's just present.
He was about to before you said something. He was getting out of his chair. You can't see at home, audience.
Caucasian and his face is turning really red.
And when we say
tomatoes don't get that
Caucasian,
red.
we mean Caucasian. He takes a Caucasian cake. Sir,
What's up?
you facilitate a poetry power group.
I have, yeah.
Using poetry as a therapeutic tool seems to be effective.
Yeah.
How does applying poetry help with mental illness? Is poetry useful for someone who maybe isn't considered mentally ill, but might be suffering from, let's say, minor depression?
Yes. Okay, so you asked me a few questions there. In my opinion, poetry can help someone who is not suffering from so-called mental illness. There's different aspects of mental illness. There's like psychosis, neuroses. These are different aspects of. Poetry puts a person in a position where they can kind of create their own reality, so to speak. There's an aspect of narrative therapy that comes into play when a person wants to kind of write their own story. And a poet, you don't have to be, say, a Maya Angelou or, a Pulitzer Prize winning so-called poet. I'm very fortunate to have a book of poetry published, but I'm not in that category. It was definitely what we call in the field, cathartic, therapeutic, if you will. So to answer that question, if you put yourself in a position, anyone, absolutely anyone, to think kind of outside the box, put some thought to paper, you can create what we call as affirmations. I have an affirmation that, I state regularly daily, and it could be poetic in nature, or it could be a prose, something that doesn't necessarily have to rhyme. So, yeah.
Can you share an affirmation with us, or is it?
My personal affirmation, and I've been saying this particular one since 2009. I'm confident, I'm intelligent, and I'm confident. So what that means is
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah. My confidence arrives when I achieve intelligence, which forces my power. So I'm confident, intelligent, and powerful. And I say that to myself so much that it's kind of ringing in the back of my mind simply because it helps me with anxiety. Or, moments when you're on stage, sitting next to three guys like that. So when you need to get past those moments, writing poetry can definitely. I don't know if everyone's going to think of it that way, but in my opinion, it goes. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Tucker, next question for you we have here is
I think Alfonso's.
oh, is Alfonso next? I'm sorry. Go for it, Alfonso.
Yeah. So one of the things that comes up in research is
It's what do you do for fun? That's it.
No, not,
No, it's
no, it's I'm next.
question you want, man.
Go for it, Alfonso.
My apologies.
He's a bully, right?
He is.
You know what? You
Fonzo.
haven't changed since your middle school days. Can you give him that speech again? I don't think he listened. I don't think you heard it back then.
We had a big meeting before the podcast.
Hey, man, do you listen to your wife? Tell this man to settle down.
Oh, she puts me in check.
Francis, bring the muzzle out, please.
My apologies.
All right. What do you do for fun? Besides, you said you like to write.
I'm a
a
weirdo,
lot.
man. My sense of fun is I like to read, I like to write, I like to work. This is what I do. And,
He didn't.
most people are probably not going to, find that all that interesting, but it's something that, I actually engage in daily. Now, mind you, in regards to exercise and working out, for the last couple of years, I have not, and it's kind of sad, only because I've had to apply a bit more, study to my profession so I can get through what we call as licensure, if you will.
Right.
But I enjoy reading, I enjoy writing, I enjoy exercising, and that's just my life. That's just me.
And then that's interesting to say, just because you seem like you're really busy a lot, and just taking time to just do something fun must be.
I enjoy the work that I do, man. I'm very fortunate. I didn't find psychology until later in life, after I wrote the Noesis. I wasn't a trained writer. I didn't major in English. I majored in kinesiology, which is study of human movement, so to speak, because I was an athlete, and that kept my attention in class. So I didn't find it until I was so hard pressed to want to give something to someone else to read, because I would get asked to go speak because of my athletic accomplishments. And then when you start talking to people, they ask you questions, and then you're thinking, well, what's up? How can I answer this question? Am I answering it from a perspective of wisdom, or am I answering it simply because I think I'm cool, or I don't have any education? And then I wanted that. And because my mind is, I enjoy learning, I went back to school in my last profession and got my master's degree. And then that kind of sparked something in me that I didn't know was there. And, psychology became part of my life.
Awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay.
Dr. Tucker, one thing that comes up in research is adverse childhood experiences and how they impact us. After reading your book, I found out that we grew up in very similar neighborhoods. And so, yeah. So you were down the street on, I was 9th and Floridora. You were like Olive and, yeah, just all kinds of craziness going on out there. And I just felt like in that neighborhood back in those days, when someone wanted something, they just take it. They would just take it, you know? And I didn't really realize until I was at Fresno State. I was a bio major. And it was like second day of lab, and we're doing this experiment, and some kid was using something that I needed, and instead of being like, hey, excuse me, can I use that after you? I just took it out of his hand, and I just started using it, and I was like, oh, that's like what somebody would have done in my neighborhood. Why did I do that? And I started apologizing immediately, you know what I mean? And I was like, why did I do that? That was so weird. Like, that's what would happen to me in my neighborhood, you know? How does one overcome childhood trauma and live like a normal life? You know, like that was just something small and minor, but that was something I really had to think about, you know, as I progressed through college. And then by the time I was done, I learned how to behave, guys. So I stopped taking things out of people's hands. Yeah.
That's a serious question. How does one overcome childhood trauma? You know, so I can put it in this regard. It's going to be different for absolutely everyone. I'm very fortunate to have done my research. Most of the time, persons in my position are going to conduct research and they're going to write dissertations, they're going to have to defend their research, so forth and so on. My research was in post-traumatic growth. Unfortunately, not even a lot of people in my position are familiar with post-traumatic growth. If someone said PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, the majority of people that work with me know what that is. So, to answer your question, post-traumatic growth is something that is, of course, capable of all persons, but a lot of people think that trauma is so debilitating that they can't recover from it, especially in childhood, as you asked. If you learn what those issues are, hence our conversation a few minutes ago regarding knowing what your triggers are, then you kind of understand your trauma. And when you understand your trauma, a lot of people realize that from that, they can actually grow from it to make you stronger. Trauma is something that produces, you know, let's just say we in our profession are going to call it, you know, cortisolemia or excess cortisol. It's going to beat the body up. It's going to tear the body down. But most people, when they think that they're just dealing with problems and it's traumatic, they don't really know why. You know, they tend to lose sleep, or they eat too much, or they don't eat enough, or, you know, they can't concentrate. Right? If you learn how to deal with that trauma, it's PTG, post-traumatic growth. You can defeat that so-called trauma. You can grow from that so-called trauma. You become that person. Hence, your childhood doesn't have to be so debilitating from a, you know, sort of perspective. You think about your childhood all the time. It's a powerful thing. I live by it, so to speak, because I did my research in it. When I finish licensure, there's a book that I'm writing that is going to focus on post-traumatic growth. And I know that, say, for example, a year or two from now, given the opportunity, I'll bring that work back here and share it with you guys.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to focus on that question like thoroughly.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You give me a pal, maybe something like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right. Next,
What's up, man?
next question.
Like I said, I thought this was going to be hard, man.
No, you're doing good, man. You're doing good. You're doing,
This episode was written just for you.
I'm all ears. What's up?
How do you not take your work home with you, sir? You listen to some pretty fucked up shit every day. How do you deal with that?
Language, my gosh. So, how do I not take this work home with me?
Mm-hmm.
For example, for me, the work isn't an issue. The work isn't a problem. The persons that I work with are not an issue. The persons that I work with are not a problem. Now, mind you, that's specific to me. You have to understand where I come from, and where I come from is not typical. So the issues that I dealt with as a kid, this is kind of like basic, you know, with all due respect, and I'm not sugarcoating this. to see someone die is traumatic, but when you've seen it happen in from many different perspectives, aspects, so to speak, you know, it doesn't become as traumatic. And I hate to say that because some of us are dealing with some harsh issues in life. But in my position, I'm communicating with persons who are incarcerated for various reasons, but I have yet to communicate with persons who have been involved in something that I'm not necessarily familiar with. So I don't have to take that home because I've been dealing with those issues my entire life. I'm fortunate because those issues don't plague me in my everyday life. I have what I think are some really cool, positive coping skills. And I have tons of journals. I think if I didn't write as much in my journals and deal with my issues in regards to exercise and work out, if I didn't have a loving family, if I wasn't, you know, fortunate enough to come home to, you know, a loving wife and a child, could be problematic. But like I told you before, I got some really cool coping skills. So those aren't my issues. Trust me. The work is not a problem, man. It's not a problem for me.
Oh, thank you, sir. Do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Dr. Tucker, there's a stigma with Latinx and African Americans
When it comes to seeing a therapist. How do we make it okay to go out and get help and help us get better?
Right. There's a term called being culturally encapsulated. Many persons in my position don't understand culture, and culture definitely is a strong component thereof. So when you communicate with, say, a person of color, doesn't necessarily mean that come from the same culture. There's socioeconomic status that comes into play. There's education associated with socioeconomic status, not just having money, education, so forth and so on. So how one can deal with the stigma is understanding their so-called patient or client or whatever have you. When you put yourself in a position to, what we call in our field is to consult with, you know, your colleagues and try to figure out how to better communicate or get through to someone, hence understanding their culture, then the stigma isn't as great. Well, I've been very fortunate to learn that when you can relate to someone and show them some understanding, they are easier to work with. They will allow themselves to understand themselves better. That helps. Unfortunately, getting them in the office is one thing, but where I'm at, that isn't the issue. They're in prison, so where else they gonna go, right? But in other areas of one's life, you know, encouraging someone to seek so-called mental health is paramount. I think I think it's an amazing profession, and I think when someone sits down and really wants to find out what's going on with them, it'll make this world a better place. We're kind of a divided country right now, and in my opinion, I believe that divide can be. I think that divide can be squashed, so to speak. I think it can be conquered simply by communicating with, you know, someone who has an understanding of what your issues might be from a cultural perspective. Because a person who, say, for example, doesn't know the price of a loaf of bread or a gallon of milk, oftentimes they're not going to have the full capacity of understanding what a person's issues are. If, say, for example, they earn a certain amount of money and they've never had to worry about the price of a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk. So when you communicate with that person, unfortunately, you may not understand that you are making statements or insinuations that are offensive in a sense, because people aren't as well off, you know, as others.
Yeah.
And then some people are completely fine with that. You know, some people grow up
Unfortunately.
in poverty and they live healthy and strong lives, but it isn't all about money all the time. You know, some people are very fortunate to have healthy, caring families. And when, from a cultural perspective, you make assumptions and you communicate with people in that manner, it can be offensive. And next thing you know, You're trying to communicate with someone, and the next thing you know, persons of color, hence I am African American, you are Latino or Latinx, I be politically correct. They may not understand it. So hence, why do I go talk to someone? Coming from where I come from, to go talk to someone is like you snitching.
Yeah.
You're a punk, you're a sucker. Why would you do that? So for many years, I couldn't. Nancy Cisneros was the judge who was like a mother to me. She was the judge who gave Mike Darling custody of me in my last foster care placement. Because of that, I had to go sit and talk to a counselor. First few sessions, I didn't even open my mouth and talk to him because I was like, if I say something, I'm going to be snitching. I didn't understand confidentiality. They're going to go tell everything I said. It's not true. Not true at all. So there's a lot of myths out there. And if a person, especially of color, hence your question, were to give it a try, those of us in the field who really operate from, understanding culture, you're going to achieve great heights, man. You're going to help yourself a lot.
Oh yeah, that's tremendous. Anybody from the audience have a question for Dr. Tucker?
Oh, there you go. Scaring folks.
I haven't put him on the spot.
Oh,
Was that it? Hey, we have no other questions?
Oh no, we got
we got a
questions.
few
We
more.
want to talk
Do you
about.
want to take a 5?
Yeah, let's take a little break.
We're
real
gonna
quick.
take a 5, guys.
We'll be right back.
Good job, man. Good
I'll
job.
go for it.
Thank you.
I can go get it myself.
You could. Yeah. We'll take these cups back.
Yeah. Let me help you.
I insist.
Oh, wow. Hey, guys. Be back. I thought they birds. Birds right here. Yeah. I was like, is he gonna like? I was gonna get you. Yeah, I saw him right there. I was like, man, I'm a little intimidated right now. I think he's gonna pump me for my food. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Awesome, Frank.
Yeah, so far so good, right?
Yep. Yes, man.
He's so good.
I never had time to talk to him. Work.
I haven't either. It's like so interested in here.
Alfonso's getting you a beer.
No, I need another beer.
Yes, you like his office. I never like really. Okay. Yeah. You're not into what I'm saying? Okay. Dude, Lisa said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did she say?
I'm just not into what you guys are saying.
I told them to talk about Thomas, but they don't want to. Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. I want you to say boring. Ah, dude, he's serious. We're still live.
Salute.
Salute, dude.
Salute,
This is
everybody.
so good. So good. I can't wait to get into this next part of the episode because we grew up in the same neighborhoods. Except he was way cooler and way stronger and could take on the bullies in the neighborhood. And I was like,
should have hit him up before.
I was like, bullies.
Dude, he was probably the one bullying you.
No, I was getting bullied by bulldogs and chinos. I mean, Asians. TRGs, 209s. Hey, somebody, bully's got to bully somebody. I'm glad I survived the jumpings.
You should go track him down now and then put him in a chokehold.
Nah, dude, if I could find them, I'll give them in a twister.
And then splits all day.
All day, dude. Double leg them onto their heads. Hated those dudes so much. And to this day, I still hate cholos. Only the douchebag ones.
Tell him what you think about them.
Oh, they're cool guys. Dude, check out that. I was gonna ask him about that. I like to drill.
I know, right?
Can I kiss back here?
Yeah. Just make sure you do it on camera. Just admiring your notebook.
Yeah. Is there a specific type of pen that you like to use, or?
I'm really into is let's just say they're German manufacturer.
Uh-huh.
They're probably, if not the one of the prestigious packaging institutes worldwide.
No.
They're made from precious metals. Oftentimes they might honor different people. Like, for example, this particular one is Mahatma Gandhi. So I'll use Mahatma Gandhi. There's thanks to this one is a rose gold geometric. This one is James Dean.
You got that shit at Chinatown.
Hey, we can go to Revolution. We can go to Revolution Street.
Yeah. Yeah. What's going on, guys? Thank you.
Welcome, welcome. Cheers. Thank you, everybody listening. If you're listening now or listening later, appreciate you.
We're all vaccinated.
Except for Alfonso, he don't believe in COVID. That one down there.
Flat earther.
Yeah.
I don't see no curves right now.
I've been on a plane and it looks flat to me, dude.
That Alfonso doesn't read a lot of books. We try.
Why read?
Part two, right?
All right, we're gonna start up the last half of this episode, and Dr. Tucker, what we want to talk about, like I said, after reading your book, Noesis, I found out, like I said, that we grew up in some of the same neighborhoods. So I wanted to talk a little bit about growing up in Fresno.
And my first question here is, what was your favorite place to hang out as a kid? Like I remember having a good place where I like to hang out most of the time.
Okay, so this is gonna sound funny. When I was a kid, growing, there was different spots. Right. You gotta understand where we come from and where I come from. So, think about it. I grew up back in the day. They called it a dope house. They call it a rock house. They might call it a trap house by today's standard, or even trap from certain locations. But I can say this. I remember going to the Musqueta Center.
Yes. Yes. No one's watching anybody out there.
Put gloves on, but then you can get caught slipping on the way home. Especially if you beat somebody up, his friends probably catch you. Anyway, to answer the question, there was never a single place, so to speak, where I just enjoyed going to regularly. It always involved going to practice. It always involved some sort of engaging in some sort of physical activity, sports, football, hence wrestling, and man, I played the violin and I played the saxophone, so I was always
Alto sax?
Yeah, alto.
Me too, brother.
So fortunately enough, I had those activities to run to, but you go home sometimes and electricity is not on. That's
Gotta deal with that.
Yeah, you go home and they put a lock on the water.
Yeah,
so
that ain't no joke.
Break the turn the water on. You don't want to go home.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I think you got me on that one. That's a good question. But beyond just trying to engage in as many activities as I possibly could, that's about it.
All right. So growing up in Fresno, you had to have had some adventures, some crazy stories. What were some adventures you had in Fresno growing up as a kid? We had an episode a while back. I almost died, where Alfonso almost died going down a hill on a bike. Crashed his head into a car. That was his first concussion. I had another buddy jump off of a roof thinking he could swing like Tarzan. Almost died. You got any stories like that?
Okay, so check this out. Fresno, California, right? Some people would call it the armpit of California. It's right in the middle, right? I'm not gonna say that because it's a beautiful place. However, it doesn't snow in Fresno, right?
No.
Okay, so I'm in my last foster care placement, and they take us up to the so-called snow, right? Which is only like maybe an hour and a half, right? I mean, it's in Fresno. You can like drive an hour and go to what, Militant Lake, go skiing or something like that. I had never did any of those things before. Hence, I've never been out an hour outside of Fresno, right? So here's the almost died story for you, man. My foster family takes me to the so-called snow for the first time. And there was a principal at Scandinavian Middle School who was best friends with Mike Darling. His name was Clark, Principal Clark. Clark Mello, to be exact. And he has a son named Colin. So my foster parents, has a son named Zach. So Zach and Colin and myself, now they're significantly younger than me by like 10 years, right? So at the time, think about it. They're like elementary school, I'm in high school. And they're like, man, here's a snowmobile, go play in the snow. I've never been to the snow before. I don't even know what it looks like. How do you deal with it? Now, the average person who's been in the snow, you're thinking, it's the snow, no big deal. So we're on the snowmobile, and I got these two kids in the back. I'm a kid myself, but mind you, I'm punching it because I don't have. I'm just clueless.
You don't know better.
No
I don't
experience.
know better, and I'm fearless, right? So we're going, and I'm hitting curves, and I'm hitting turns, and we're in the snow, and I'm snowmobiling, and then we get to this area where there's some trees. And for whatever reasons, we tear up the snow so bad that we didn't know or recognize that there was kind of like a cliff.
Oh my
So
God.
the snow, I don't know how to explain it, but there wasn't necessarily an avalanche, but the side of the cliff where the snow was basically kind of like
Being held back.
it just fell. Like, when I say fell, I'm talking about like 20, 30 feet.
No.
Now, 20, 30 feet, you're thinking maybe you can survive that. Man.
That's like 3 basketball courts.
So I turned the there you go. I turned the snowmobile. The snowmobile like flips over. You know, Zach and Colin fall off. I'm still trying to hold on to the snowmobile, and we fall down a cliff.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
So we almost died.
Damn.
Wow.
And you know, I haven't been snowmobiling since.
Yeah, that's it.
There's your story.
Oh my God. We took a bunch of kids camping to the snow in college, and it was nothing at all nearly like that. But I haven't gone back to the snow since, man. I don't know if you
cold.
remember that, dude. That was awful. Thanks, Manuel.
I just haven't been snowmobiling.
All right. Did you guys beat Bullard High School in the Battle of Barstow back in the day?
Every year I was there, bro. And I was very fortunate. Believe it or not, I was a better running back than I was a wrestler. And
So Alfonso went to Hoover High School.
Yes.
I was very, very fortunate. That was when Coach Plummer was our football coach, and things were a little different then because man, let me tell you, my friends and I, we would ride around town causing havoc. And when I say causing havoc, I mean you're talking about almost died experiences. We were just it was pretty bad, man. I was doing things I had no business doing. Had no business being involved in certain situations. You know, it's just, and then to get on the football field and play against like a rival school that's just, you know, a few miles away from you. And they give you a reason to go hit somebody. We can laugh about it now, but those were some difficult times.
All right,
sir.
Dr. Alfonso, I have one last question for you here. What is it about the Valley that made you stay? There's been a lot of people in the past that have come out of here. We've got NFL athletes, NBA players, politicians, writers, artists, rap. I mean, just you name it. You name any category, we probably have someone from Fresno that has came out and done that. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't come back. What is it about yourself, or what is it about Fresno that made you want to come back and give back to your community?
Okay, so you know, I was very fortunate. Sometimes persons in my position, maybe they're not given as many opportunities, and they just take, you know, whatever residency that's offered to them. I was very fortunate to be offered a few different places, and because I knew Fresno, you know, I chose to come back to Fresno to, you know, work and finish my residency. So, I can say this: Fresno for me. It's kind of like that village, so to speak. Have you ever heard the term "it takes a village"? Yes.
Oh yeah.
As a teacher, we say it all the time.
Yeah. Fresno for me has been that village. Think about it. You're talking to a guy who's never met his biological mother. I lived with a man, my biological father, who, let's just say, he facilitated transactions of a physical nature for persons who were willing to pay. For the pleasures of.
So he was a pimp.
Yeah, he was. I was trying to be polite. So he, you know, he behaved a certain way, and oddly enough, those ventures, those situations, they took place in Fresno. But when I was taken and put into social services, I was put in the foster care system. Fresno, I saw Fresno differently. Fresno wasn't just, you know, 9th and Olive, 9th and Floridora. It wasn't, you know, me passing through the U on the west side. It wasn't me hanging out with my boys who was, you know, they were part of the VP Villa Posse back then. These weren't, there's a different aspect of Fresno. And I didn't realize that until, you know, I was in foster care. And then when I was told that I had to go to counseling, you know, that kind of changed my life. And then to be recruited and not have, you know, necessarily the opportunities that everyone else gets, because I was an athlete and I was fairly good at my sport. You know,
just good.
I could have gone to many different places, and I chose to go to Fresno City College and then Fresno State. And I was an All-American. So for me, my Fresno experience is what kind of shaped me as a person. And then, you know, to get hired, I thought I was trying to do the right thing. I went off and became a cop, you know. And many years into the job, I knew it wasn't for me. But, man, when I found out what my passion in life was, to be given the opportunity to come back to Fresno and pursue those passions, it was a no-brainer, man. You know, it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer. So Fresno is the village that kind of raised this guy. And I think I kind of owe it to A, the system, and B, the community, so that others in our position and my position know that, you know, you can do whatever it is you want to do in Fresno. If you want to become a doctor, which I never even dreamed of.
We got those here.
You know, if you want to become so forth and so on.
Right.
You can do that absolutely anywhere.
Word.
There's no proofs.
True that. True that. Well, we appreciate you having you here. And I know you don't know this, but your foster father, Ron Darling, was a mentor. Mike Darling. I'm sorry. Mike Darling was a mentor of one of my first principals when I first started working for Fresno Unified, Stephen Morris. I first started working for Fresno Unified at Carver Academy Middle School. So
I've actually spoken there years back.
Probably, yeah, I'm sure you would. You did, you know what I mean? And I would have loved to have had you there when I was there. But you spoke about the Villa Posse and the U Boys, and I mean, those guys were just right across the street from us day in and day out, you know, and unfortunately that school's not here any longer. But there is another school over there. And your stepfather, man, he molded a lot of people, man. A lot of his values are in me. And when I was with Fresno Unified, you know, I struggled a lot with just seeing the things that I saw day in and day out. And if we could have had more people like you, man, we would have made all kinds of strides.
I think there is more people like me, so to speak. I don't, with all due respect, I don't say that I'm so special. I think that I have been able to take positive advantage of the opportunities that have been presented to me. If you're in a position to help those kids take advantage of those opportunities, you guys are as well. We do that more and more, especially in so-called Fresno. Then, come on, man, we help more than just.
Right. I had a question that I got rid of, and I was just kind of piggybacking off of what we said. There's so many awesome people, so many awesome leaders, athletes, rappers, artists, what you name it. What do you think it's going to take for us to maybe turn around what's happening in Fresno? I feel like you go to one side of town and they feel so unconnected from this other side, and you go to this other side and it feels like we're teams. What do you think it would take to bring this city together, or do you think that's even possible?
Yeah, definitely it's possible. What you're talking about is, in my opinion, can be solved in many different ways. Unfortunately, in this era, it's probably going to take a lot of, let's just say, non-political bias, so to speak. We're going to have to be, you know, bipartisan, so to speak.
Definitely.
Those of you who don't understand the term, like, we're going to have to come together as so-called conservatives or liberals, so to speak. It doesn't matter. There is a great deal of issues in both the so-called Democratic platform that pertains to being a Democrat or a Republican. And sometimes people are kind of looking to so-called win as opposed to, you know, progress.
Yes.
And the only way we are going to so-called progress is if we kind of compromise even on both sides. So every conservative person you run into isn't going to have so-called political values that kind of defame persons because of culture and color. Every liberal person that you come across is not going to have, you know, the type of mentality to where their values are somewhat, say, supersede conservative because they are pro-life or not. The argument doesn't have to be that, but we have to come together and actually talk about those things. In my opinion, to answer your question, it can be done if we come together, both sides of the political aisle, so to speak. Unfortunately, in my opinion, people are looking to win as opposed to, you know, progress. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference. And we can do that in Fresno. We can definitely do that.
Hopefully someday, and hopefully someday soon. Definitely.
Man, I agree.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Eddie, Fonzo?
Guys, do you guys have any questions from the audience? Anything? No? I think that's it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Dr.
That's a wrap.
Alfonso, for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your day. We hope you guys enjoyed this little interview here. Thank you.
You're very
We
welcome.
appreciate you having you being on the show. You know, everything that you've done, everything you do. We can't wait to see what's next. So again, having you back again on the podcast, will be definitely a treat next time.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Dr. Tucker.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Absolutely.
All right.
We're going to take a little break, and then we'll have Michael Ungeuz, owner of Spokeasy Public House, up next.
Stick around.
You want to join the panel for that one?
No, let that man talk about his accomplishments here. You know? Let him have his time.
I didn't know they have two.
If you say so. If you say so.
Honestly.
Oh, definitely.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Likewise.
Keep up the good work.
We will.
Bukayo.
Okay.
Until next
see you,
time.
man. Yeah.
All right. And keep writing jokes. Some of them will be funny.
Eventually.
Some of them.
Someday.
Some of them. Take care, bro.
Oh, hey, watch the equipment. I can't help it. I can't. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys. Maybe you should be nicer.
I'm gonna laugh for your speech.
Oh, you will be nicer.
I'm gonna change. I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
change
guys.
Fresno. Yeah.
Take care, supervisor. Take care. Thanks for having me. Like 1.5 I'm good. I don't know if I can go farther. Like, I go there on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I try to get you, but from there. No, I get it. It's not far, but it's just the week I get there. But all right, so usually those men. Okay. Like quarter recipes that. I will say 201 was just not a safe. I'm not doing it. I want to get back into that. I got it.
Or Casey.
Yeah.
All right, see you Monday.
Maybe.
I had too much to drink today.
Wait a second. It's not my back out, but like the dumbbells I had set up, was like, oh my god, I can only do 6. They used to do 10. Like, just trying to get back in this class I had right now. But the cardio, I like back, so I do sets on that or just. I also there, and I have to this all so I'm doing that. It's because it's mine is scratching me up all over. You know? She's 11 years, 12 weeks for the baby teeth fall out, so it's like, you know, it's the strong biological urge to like bite everything and rip them out. So it's just nonstop biting. So then we're right now just trying to That's what I was telling Eddie. Like, I'm just trying to get back what I used to have and get back no, I've never talked to him, but I have years. Like, I'd have to get all and you had to get a kid with that at 80. It's like me in high school, man. Yeah, pitch crossfire. We got kind of on the back end of the spring. That's actually getting back what I had. I was not a person that had like ignored during quarantine. I worked on my house. I did a lot of like home hobbies and like read like textiles and stuff. But I didn't do anything because I let it all go. So I'm like, I'm gonna get that back, and then I'm gonna get back on it.
Sorry about that. Then I give it up and I go back and I go back in. And then I still do a little bit and then back and then close again. And then I did like.
Oh, yes. I did also kind of like that, and then I did a long question. I think I lost it all.
Yes.
Right now. And I know it's 25 years old. And so like that's cool. I can use it to maintain, but I didn't. And then I bought a TRX and stopped it. And oh man. I didn't do a lot of my body weight, and so I was like, then I switched over to choice. I was like, crap, like the TRX, like it's cool, but I lost a lot of muscle mass doing like that didn't it was cool. I felt good because I could do a lot of reps. It actually like put me in my body like. Just wither away. Like I was not doing like something iron. I just lost it.
For next time?
You don't have a charger then?
I don't know what's gonna die.
You don't have a charger?
No.
Oh, no, yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
That's probably.
got it with that. Sounds like it.
What kind of charger is it?
It's its own.
This one. Now I'm like probably 13 pounds more like that.
I fucked up on that.
I'd like
You gotta get this going soon.
I've got it.
To wrap it up. Go get Eddie on the time. Or let me go get Get on the
I like to do it. I'm 145 right now. I'm 145.
This is the guy you need.
You know?
Let me go to the bathroom.
Yeah. I got you another one.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to drink it.
I will.
Right now. Yeah. Whenever you're ready, man.
Let me.
Now, we're just gonna ask you about the business. You can always talk MMA. We're always ready for that. We think he's trash. We just did an episode on that last week. Oh yeah, it's back on. But he's making a buttload of money. He's so smart.
It seems like in that sense, it's
Yeah, he's brilliant.
financial sense, yeah.
I think it does. I mean, I don't, because other people were doing it before, so I don't know if you were aware of this, but like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was an MMA promotion in Japan, and they would go out and active. Can you imagine, like in the United, like if Dana White from the UFC were to be like, let me go after the best, the best looking actor from Days of Our Lives, and I'm gonna have him fight my top light heavyweight world champ. That's what Japan would do. They would seriously go out and find like a pop star or a soap opera star and say, hey, we're gonna pay you this amount of money and we're gonna have you fight this professional fighter, and they would just sign up and they would get demolished. And that Kimbo's like, no, he was more like a street brawler. He was a street brawler who yes. Oh, definitely. Like one of his last fights when he fought that rapper Dada 5000, and that guy almost had a heart attack because he was just not able to perform at that level. Like that poor guy almost died in the cage, you know. So that's at that level, you know, like because I mean, if this Jake Paul kid were to actually go up against a pro boxer, he might actually die. You know, can you imagine? He's not. That's another joke, man. It's just another joke. He's beyond. Yeah, he's like 40 pounds heavier than him or something like that.
They're contracted at 190.
But Floyd's never gotten that heavy, dude.
It's 160.
Yeah, maybe.
Against a professional boxer, like, you know, this guy Paul's is an amateur at best. You know what I'm saying? He's not a professional boxer. He's been training. But you know, you got a world class boxer out there.
He's gonna get tuned up, man.
Yeah, he's gonna make world class money.
Yeah.
What'll happen to the world if he knocks out?
It'll cease. We'll all cease to exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like that'd be the worst thing ever.
It's a joke.
I really don't want that.
That's cool that you're a fight fan.
No, I'm not actually. I don't know. I pay attention to right?
It's in the news, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the news, and he's a.
It's trending. Yeah.
I mean, he couldn't be more opposite of the person than I am. Like, I would never have the balls to be like that. Even if I was super good at something, I'd never just. I don't know.
Well, with
It takes people like I don't know. I'm just not. I wouldn't.
What Mayweather was considered the best pound for pound fighter in the world,
Right.
and they wanted to promote him like Oscar De La Hoya.
Right.
And even though he was beating everyone, winning multiple world titles, he was still on the undercard.
Nobody cared.
He was watching.
Fought in Fresno at the arena.
Nobody cared.
No.
He was watching WCW, and he saw Hulk Hogan go from good guy to bad guy, and he was like, "That's it. More people would rather pay to see you lose than to see you win." And that's when he took on the Money Mayweather persona.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
he was a showboater too, but
Yeah.
I mean, it was deserved. Like it seemed like it was deserved or earned. Like
Yeah, it was
you
just a
win
gimmick.
that many in a row,
Yeah.
whatever you get to start doing that, I guess. That's what it seems like.
Ready?
All right,
Okay.
and we are back, everyone.
All right, guys, we're back. Our second guest is the owner of the Spokeasy. Everyone,
Yeah.
let's give it up for Michael Ungeuz.
That was cheers from
Yeah.
500 people.
We can barely keep the people back.
Yeah, we're
Stay
in
back,
Yemen,
guys.
We're live in Yemen. The Yemenis. Hey, Mike, we would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for allowing us to host
Yeah, no problem.
our 50th episode show. I also want to mention to everyone, and you guys already know this, there's a wide selection of craft beers, and they have the best fucking sandwiches in town, guys. Please grab a drink. Please grab a bite.
Todd's already ordered 3 sandwiches.
Yes,
Crazy.
yes.
Keep going, Todd. Keep going.
Mad about the Giants.
Giants are in first place, Todd. Suck it.
Alfonso, you have the first question for us, good sir?
I do. Well, first, I kind of want to have one of those sandwiches. But, oh, wait.
Not now.
Not now. All right. You just made me hungry.
Get the bologna sandwich.
What was your inspiration for the Spokeasy? And, what made you think about like starting this and the way it come through and like the whole vision behind the aesthetic?
Well, I guess to be totally honest, there wasn't gave like decent in the beginning. It was started as a side business.
Okay.
Between myself and another friend of mine who has moved on to doing other stuff again a number of years ago. So it's just me now. But he and I would hang out, drink beer, eat burritos, and say, "Man, wouldn't it be cool if there was somewhere better beer?" That is awesome. And we rode bikes around together. He's a huge cycling guy. Okay. Like huge. And we just would ride around, find ourselves drinking beer places and hanging out. And we just found like we were bored of a lot of the beer. And we didn't have a lot of brewing experience, so we started home brewing together. And we kind of thought about that. And then we thought, hey, maybe we could just find a little place and we'll open a bar. And after we're off work, we'll open up. Maybe if some of our friends come by regularly and support the 2 pints, you can pay the rent. I don't know. Within honestly, within like 2 days, it's weird. And we realized we probably like that. So a little bit different once we interact. And then just kind of evolved slowly over time.
What's an awesome place?
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, we aren't the shiniest spot in the world, but we do like what we do. We do really, we do pay a lot of attention to beer. We really genuinely like beer.
Yeah.
So, I think some places maybe don't always.
Yeah.
I'm not referencing anyone in particular, really anywhere. But
Just say it, Mike.
No,
Put them on blast.
It has nothing to do with competition or anything like that, or other places that do what we do. Has nothing to do with that. But I can say that just genuinely for us, like everyone who works here really likes craft beer. It's not just something we're doing because it's grown. Yeah, and been like the industry has boomed, but we've kind of been trying to do it since before, a little bit even before it got really crazy.
Right.
So it's been interesting to watch.
And one of the things that I love, just going a little bit off topic here, is it just feels like
The atmosphere.
a place where you can just hang out, like a backyard.
It's
Just,
kind of
like
yeah, it's
hanging
kind
out
of
with your friends. You just no real pressure. You just having a drink. It's
Yeah.
awesome. And what advice would you give to anybody who's going to be opening a bar store? Like, now that you've been through it, what kind of lessons?
I don't know. Don't do it. No, it's if it's something you're passionate about, it's a good business. I guess I would say make sure you're not doing it just because you think it's a fad or something because the industry itself is attractive. Over the last number of years, there's been a lot of breweries that have opened. Some of them, I feel like you can tell, they aren't opening because they've been beer people forever. They have the money, they have the opportunity, or they see the opportunity and they want in on it. I think some of them turn out super successful, but I don't know that they get into it always for the right reasons. I think there's some of that. That's just how big it's gotten. But as far as a business, I'd say try and find a spot that you don't have to build yourself cobble together something like we've got, which is an old building which lends some charm, but at the same time it's not perfect. And that's a tough thing to deal with. We have had issues with just and it's tough. So.
Well, it's a great place, man.
Yeah,
We love it. Yeah, we love the ambiance. We love the environment. We love the vibe. We've been coming here years before we even thought about this podcast. We would come get totally trashed here, have awesome times, stumble home, and the next day be like, "Hey, let's go to Spokeasy." So, like I said, we've been coming here for a long time. So we're super glad that You've created this place for us to come hang out, and now that things are starting to open up, we're able to come back. We've always loved this neighborhood. We've always loved this community. I used to live down the street just on the way down here. I was like, hey, let's go pass by my old apartments. Just because
we're Tower Rats.
Yeah, we're Tower Rats, man. We love this place. Me and Ed's, Tower District, Tower Theater, Bobby Salazar's Landmark. You name it. We can tell you stories in each and every place. So we know why.
Tell those stories.
Probably not. We'll get arrested right now. We know why we like to come down here, but what was it about this particular part of town that made you want to start here?
That's where we lived.
So you're just born into it pretty much then.
Yeah, we both lived in the neighborhood when we started it. My partner lived like the number of streets that way, just several blocks. I literally lived a big block that way. And we looked at spots all around. We thought about downtown. Thankfully, disrespecting downtown, but that didn't come together, and I'm really glad it didn't. Because looking back, it probably wouldn't have panned out that like it has at least. So we stumbled upon this actual spot at pure luck. We knew there was a guy that had been doing something kind of not like it, but he had the ability to sell some beer here. And then one day it was gone and it was empty for a long time. And then we saw a phone number just stuck in the bottom corner of the window, and we called it, and the next thing we knew, we were trying to fix it.
That sounds like destiny to me.
Yeah, and we thought, we're right in the neighborhood, it's small, we're not overcommitted to something we can't handle, because we literally were both working like 8 to 5 jobs at the time. So in the beginning, we alternated. And we'd get off work and come straight here, open it up, and then stay until midnight, and then go home. And the next day, the other one of us would do it. And we did that for a while. And then after, I don't know, maybe a year or so, Ben quit his job and did more full time here, and I kept working at another business that I had for a number of years until finally he exited and I started doing it totally full time. But yeah, it was all just because it was in the neighborhood, and yeah, like I said, we thought let's just try to create a little hangout and create a hangout closer to where we live, all the better.
We've always talked about that. We've always talked about like, hey, let's pitch in and get an apartment, and it'll just be for us, and we won't tell the Francis or any of Francis. None of the wives, and it'll just be for us. But basically, you created that same thing right here just for us. So we thank you, Michael. We thank you so much, man. We're gonna claim this as our own, and we'll just keep paying you for the beers and the sandwiches and the chips.
You do the drinking, you do the cleaning. Do you have any live shows? Do you have any entertainment? Okay. What about stand-up comedy?
Hey, we know some guys.
We know 2 guys that do stand-up comedy. You ever want to?
Live music, we just felt like the place was too small. Just didn't seem like it was going to be good for either side in the sense of letting the artists do what they wanted to do. It just felt too cramped, too tight. Something that we can do well, so we figured everyone else who does it and do it better.
Okay.
So that's really the only reason, other than we just had all the other stuff going on.
Okay, we're desperate for a gig.
Okay.
So
yeah. Well,
Eddie will pay you to let us tell jokes and stories here, please. I'll even make sandwiches. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'll bring the bread. Michael, since you guys have opened here, have you had any unusual nights or like nights where you're like, oh my God, that should be like a movie or that could be a TV show right there? Because it was just wild last night.
No.
Oh, that's good. That's good, man. Yeah.
Knock on wood, I guess, kind of thing. there's been plenty of nights that are, you know, a little more stressful. Sometimes alcohol is involved, obviously, but
add a little spice to the life.
we always have closed kind of early relative to a lot of places, and we don't serve hard alcohol, and we don't have live music or dancing.
That brings the animals out sometimes.
Luis does what he wants. So, you know, we have had relatively few scary situations. So we've had no fights. Like, it just doesn't really happen. I think a large part of it is the people who come here.
It's the vibe here, you know?
They claim, I think a lot of the reason is the people who do come here frequently, we have a lot of people who really claim smoke as theirs. And thankfully, they just don't let it happen.
Yeah. Plus, you got 2 purple belts here all the time. We'll fuck shit up, man. Especially Eddie.
No,
Not me, I'll watch, but
much better.
don't come here if you want trouble, because Eddie's ready.
Shoot down the gauntlet. People are going to be coming.
Just bring cash, because Mike likes cash.
Casey's part of, yeah, brown belt in judo.
Bring it. Casey's ready. He's warming up in the back. No, that's better for us. Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So that just makes it more worthwhile to come out here because, you know, this is a relaxed atmosphere. Bring your journals. Bring your wallet. Get a sandwich. Get something to drink and enjoy this awesome environment. I'm telling you, once you come through those doors, you'll just feel, I mean, I don't know. As soon as I walk through the door, you just feel welcome. You just feel relaxed. Get out and go down the street. It is.
Just hanging out at your friend's house, having a beer, just in the neighborhood, you know what I mean? That's the kind of vibe I get. And it's just one of those things where you just, it's hard to replicate, man. It's hard to just have that feel.
True.
I really appreciate you. Appreciate us to this day. It's amazing space. So when it's all said and done, you know, all that, how do you want Spokeasy to remember? What would be your legacy?
I think it's just that community that I've seen kind of get together like that. And at times it's weird because I don't necessarily feel like it's, I don't really feel like it's anything that we've done. And people tell us it is. But oddly, I feel like what everyone likes is the fact that really community here rallies around the beer. Yeah. So like we always try to just do the best we can. That's all we do. And really that's until very recently is all we do. So we always try to just do the best we could and brought together people who were like-minded about whatever you want to call it, that topic or
The culture.
pastime or just what they enjoy. And we just see people from, you know, we used to get a truck like on any given afternoon, they have 3 guys in suits and ties. We have a group that was tower rats or whatever, if you want to call it. We'd have 20 or, you know, new 21-year-olds trying just figuring out, like seeing, you know, trying having a drink. We'd have grizzly old craft beer guys that are grumpy about their, you know, beers not being the beer that they like. And, you know, it was just, and everyone was just kind of forced together or choosing to be together around beer. And so, I don't know, like it just.
It's a place for everybody, basically. And I felt that.
Craft beer can sometimes, I think, sometimes at places that make people who want to check it out get into it. Sometimes make it feel excluded, if it feels a little too pretentious or something like that. Because there are a lot of new beer styles, and if you just like light beers, but you're not into craft beer, it's hard to maybe find your way in sometimes. We've always just kind of tried to hold the motto of it's all right to like what you like, you know, and don't be ashamed of that. And we've always tried to just do a wide range of beer and craft beer, and not make anyone feel weird if they like one thing or not the other. And
Right.
that's really kind of just all we've sort of ever.
So no beer shaming.
No, definitely. We really, I wouldn't even say we purposely tried not to. We just don't. Like, we just really don't. You know, like, I mean, there's no point in it. If you want to be here and have something cool, and hopefully you find some good people to hang out with. And I mean, we've seen a lot of friendships form.
Yeah.
You know, just from people meeting people here, which is pretty cool. I don't know. That's probably the coolest thing for me to have seen, is just how many people have formed like tight relationships over, you know, coming to a place, it's in their neighborhood or hanging out. It's over beer. Cool.
Yeah, over beer.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Hey, Alfonso,
Appreciate you.
any other questions?
I think that's it, man.
That's it, man.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Well,
great.
that's a wrap for today's show. I want to thank all our guests for taking time out of their busy Saturday. Thank you, Mr. Michael Ungeuz. Thank you so much for having us today. Thank you to Dr. Alfonso Tucker for taking time out of his day and sharing his story. We greatly appreciate everything you do and everything you've done for this community. If you ever find yourself in the Tower District area, come down here, grab a sandwich, grab a beer. Spokeasy Public House, historic Tower District. Talk to Michael. This is a fantastic place. I'm telling you, Dr. Mike. Thank you all for today, for listening. Thank you for watching out there. Until next time, keep rolling and training, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Cheers.
Peace. Salud.
You were saying something about oil wrestling?